You're here now, breathing. That's enough. The day might have left you hollow, or aching, or quietly overwhelmed beneath everything you had to hold together. Maybe your thoughts have been loud, repeating worries you've carried too long. Maybe you spent the whole day trying to be okay for others, and now, in the quiet, it's finally safe to feel how not okay you actually are. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to clean it up before someone sees. Just breathe tonight. Let yourself be exactly as you are. You've been told in so many ways that you have to earn the good things. Earn comfort, earn care, earn rest, earn love. And maybe you believed it because it kept you safe, or it helped you survive, or it made sense when you were too young to know better. But now, in this quiet space, let that belief begin to loosen. Love isn't something you purchase with good behaviour or sacrifice. It's something that should meet you where you are. And right now, you are here, breathing, tired, still trying. There's no prize for holding everything together. No secret medal for staying strong while you fall apart on the inside. You've done enough of that. And tonight, you don't have to. You can let the edges show. You can sigh without having to smile afterward. You can just be a person who had a long day and who deserves to be held by silence, by sound, by softness, by something deeper than explanation. Soften your jaw, unclench your hands, sink into whatever surface is beneath you. The world doesn't need you to be anything right. Now accept real, no more shoulds, no more stories about what you could have done better. You're allowed to stop bracing. Even if your mind is racing, you don't need to solve it all tonight. You don't need to arrive at any answers. You don't need to fix yourself. Let the questions stay questions. Let the weight be shared, even if just in spirit, even if you're the only one in the room. Because love, real love, doesn't demand you show up perfectly. It just asks you to show up honestly. And you've done that. You're doing it now. Notice the way your breath moves. In through the nose, gentle. Out through the mouth, slower. If it feels stuck, that's okay. You're not doing it wrong. You're just noticing it for the first time in a while. That noticing is part of love too. Paying attention to yourself. Not to fix, but to witness. You're not alone in how you feel. Even if no one has said it out loud, so many others are lying in the dark right now. Hearts full of invisible storms. Minds trying to quiet the noise of the day. You are not strange for needing comfort. You're human. And needing to be comforted does not make you weak, or dramatic, or too much. It makes you alive. So tonight, let this be your lullaby. Not a song, but a slow unravelling of all the tight places inside you. Let this be your permission slip to feel what you feel without guilt. Let this be your reminder that love doesn't have to be earned. Not tonight. Not ever. You may have spent years trying to earn love with accomplishments, perfection, silence or sacrifice, but none of those things were required of you to be worthy. They were strategies you learned to stay safe. You can thank them. And now you can begin to lay them down. Gently, slowly. You don't have to let go of everything at once. But you can let go of one thing. The belief that being lovable means never struggling. Love isn't impressed by your ability to pretend. It's moved by your courage to be real. And right now, you're doing something real. You're listening. You're being present with yourself. You're choosing softness, even if it's uncomfortable. That's a form of self-love too. Let your body settle. Let your breath be whatever it wants to be. You're not late. You're not behind. You're not failing. You're resting, and that is sacred. There's nothing more to do right now. There's nothing more to prove. The day is done, and you are here. Still breathing, still human, still deserving. That will always be enough. You remember being small and wanting to be good, not just kind or playful, but good in the way adults liked. Good like quiet, good like helpful, good like invisible when it was inconvenient to be seen. Somewhere along the way, love started to look like a prize, something offered when you please people, when you didn't complain, when you met expectations. That's how it all began, didn't it? You learned that love came with conditions. Maybe you noticed how approval was given when you did something right, or how affection cooled the moment you expressed discomfort. Maybe you saw how people withheld warmth when you were sad, how they got uncomfortable with your tears, how they only came close when you made things easier for them. So you learned to perform. You learned to smile through disappointment, to apologise for needing anything, to tidy up your sadness before anyone could see it. Not because you wanted to deceive, but because it seemed safer that way. And when that pattern was repeated enough times, it started to feel like truth. That love only arrived after you earned it. That you had to be useful to be wanted. That your messiness was a liability. And even now, some part of you still believes it. Not consciously, maybe, but in the way you overthink your texts before sending them. In the way you replay conversations, afraid you said too much. In the way you sometimes struggle to believe someone could care about you just because you're you. But what if that story isn't the whole truth? What if the kind of love you were taught to chase, transactional, conditional, performance-based, was never real love at all? What if it was fear dressed up in approval? Love isn't supposed to feel like pressure. It isn't supposed to depend on how small you can make yourself. Real love doesn't require you to be less. The love you were missing wasn't your fault. You didn't lack anything. The people around you might have been carrying their own unmet needs, their own fears, their own emotional limitations. Maybe they thought discipline was love. Maybe they didn't know how to hold pain without fixing it. Maybe they wanted control more than connection. That doesn't excuse it, but it does explain how the patterns began. You don't need to keep playing a role you never auditioned for. You're not here to earn love by being agreeable. You're not here to work for affection like it's a paycheck. You're allowed to be loved just because you exist. Not because you performed well today. Not because you kept it all together. Not because you smiled when you didn't want to. Just because you are. You might notice that this idea brings discomfort. That part of you wants to resist, to argue. But I didn't do anything to deserve love today. But I wasn't productive. But I snapped at someone. Let that voice speak, but also recognise that it's echoing old teachings. Those thoughts were planted by a system that wanted compliance, not connection. You can choose to let them pass like clouds. You don't need to hold on. What if love was never meant to be about deserving? What if love was something you simply received? Like air, like sunlight, like the soft hush of rain outside your window. You don't question whether you've earned oxygen. You just breathe. Maybe love is like that too. You just open to it. Think back to moments when you felt safe. Maybe there weren't many, but even one will do. A time when someone looked at you with softness, or stayed close without needing anything from you. That's the kind of love you needed more of. That's the love you still deserve. Not the kind that arrives only when you're pleasing, but the kind that stays, even when you're hurting. Even now, your body remembers how to brace. Shoulders tense, breath shallow, heart racing just under the It's like your nervous system is still trying to earn safety, still trying to prove you're good enough to be spared discomfort. But here, right now, you don't have to do that. This is a soft place. There's nothing to earn here. Just you, as you are, allowed to exhale. You don't need to rehearse who to be in the morning. You don't need to replay the ways you stumbled today. You don't need to calculate how much love you're allowed based on how well you handled everything. Love doesn't work like that. Not real love. And if it ever did in the past, it wasn't love. It was control. It was fear. You don't need to carry it anymore. You are not a transaction. You are not a performance. You are not a series of achievements. You are a living, feeling, layered human being. And that alone is worthy of care. Let yourself begin to believe it, even if it's just a whisper, even if you only believe it for a second. That's how healing begins. Not with a sudden declaration, but with a slow softening. A single breath that says, I don't have to earn this. You don't have to be useful to matter. You don't have to be cheerful to be lovable. You don't have to be calm to be cared for. You are already enough. Let that truth settle deep, like warm light through a window. You learned to shrink before you ever knew you were shrinking. It wasn't always direct, wasn't always someone telling you to be less, but it was there, in the way people reacted when you were too loud, too sensitive, too opinionated, too much of anything. You started to notice what made people uncomfortable, what made them pull away, and so, little by little, you adjusted. You got quieter, you softened your edges, you smiled more, even when you didn't feel like it. You became someone easier to handle. You thought you were just being thoughtful. Maybe you still think that sometimes, but shrinking is different from being kind. Shrinking means folding in on yourself so someone else feels bigger. It means sacrificing expression for the sake of keeping the peace. It means holding back joy because it might seem like showing off, or hiding sadness because it might be inconvenient. Shrinking isn't kindness, it's fear in a clever disguise. Even now, you probably catch yourself doing it. You second guess your laughter in a quiet room. You apologize when you didn't actually do anything wrong. You downplay your accomplishments. You wait for others to speak first so you don't take up too much space. And maybe you've gotten so good at it that it doesn't even feel like shrinking anymore. It just feels like surviving. But surviving isn't the same as living. And love, real love, doesn't ask you to live in a box you've outgrown. You are allowed to take up space. Emotionally, physically, spiritually, you're allowed to have needs, to have boundaries, to have a presence that is felt. You don't have to dim your light to make others more comfortable. You don't have to soften your voice so someone else can feel louder. You don't need to be the background character in your own life just to be accepted. Think of the places where you hold back, the conversations where you edit yourself, the relationships where you always give more than you receive. Think of the way you carry yourself when you walk into a room, already aware of how much space you're taking up, already calculating how to make yourself more palatable. What would it be like to let that go? Not all at once, but slowly, carefully, with intention. What would it be like to be fully present, not just tolerated, but welcomed? What would it feel like to speak without rehearsing, to sit without adjusting, to exist without apologizing? That's not entitlement. That's self-acceptance, and it's your birthright, even if it wasn't modelled for you. Somewhere along the way, you confused humility with erasure, You believed that being lovable meant being selfless to the point of invisibility. But love doesn't require you to disappear. Love wants to see you, the real you, not the you who makes herself smaller to avoid rejection, not the you who bites his tongue to keep the mood light, but the whole, vibrant, sometimes messy, always human you. There is nothing selfish about being seen. There is nothing arrogant about taking up space. There is nothing wrong with asking for what you need, or expressing how you feel, or allowing yourself to matter in a room. You are not a burden for being visible. You are not too much. You are not dramatic. You are a person with depth and texture and stories to tell. Don't let the world shrink that. And yes, it's scary. Being fully yourself is vulnerable. It risks rejection. It opens you up. But it also opens you to real connection. The kind that isn't built on pretending, but on truth. The kind that says, I see you, all of you, and I still want to stay. That kind of love isn't found when you shrink. It's found when you expand. You may not be there yet. That's okay. You don't need to force anything, but let this moment be a quiet invitation to unfold, just a little, just enough to remember that your voice matters, your feelings matter, your story matters. You don't need to earn the right to be whole. You already are. When you shrink, you carry tension. You carry the burden of holding yourself back. But tonight, as you rest, you can let some of that tension melt. You can unclench your jaw. You can relax your shoulders. You can breathe a little deeper. Let the space around you hold all of you, not just the convenient parts. All of you. There is room here. Room for your voice. Room for your rest. Room for your truth. You don't have to be small to be safe anymore. You don't have to be quiet to be loved. You don't have to be easy to be cared for. Let yourself stretch, even if only in spirit. Let yourself return to your full size. You are never meant to fold into corners. You are never meant to be a shadow. You are meant to be here in your fullness, just like this. You've been praised a lot, maybe, applauded for your accomplishments, complimented on your strength, your resilience, your ability to get things done. People admire how composed you are, how much you handle without complaint. They say things like, you're so put together, or you always know what to do, and a part of you feels good hearing that. Maybe even needed it. But sometimes, doesn't it also feel like they're praising a version of you that isn't quite real? Applause can feel warm, but it's not the same as affection. Being admired for what you do isn't the same as being loved for who you are. Sometimes, the loudest praise hides the deepest loneliness. Because when people only see your successes, your composure, your smile, they miss the deeper layers. The part of you that struggles, the part that doubts, the part that's scared or sensitive or simply tired. You might wonder, deep down, if the applause would stop the moment you falter. You've built an identity around being capable, around being the one others rely on. You show up, you help, you over-deliver. And maybe that's how you first felt valued. Maybe that's what made people stick around. But now you find yourself trapped by it. Because if you stop performing, what happens? If you let the cracks show, will the love still come? Or will it disappear? That question haunts more people than you realise. You're not alone in it. There are so many who've been loved for their usefulness, but never for their softness. So many who've been chosen for their light, but abandoned in their shadows. That's not real love. That's conditional attention. You don't have to keep earning your place with impressive, because applause is fleeting, is loud and hollow, but affection, genuine care, is quiet and steady. It doesn't need you to dazzle, it just wants you to be. You might worry, if I stop excelling, will anyone notice me? But the right people don't need a performance. They don't need you to always have it together. They don't care how many plates you're spinning or how many times you say the right thing. They care about the real you, even when you're messy, even when you're slow, even when you don't know what to say. There's a loneliness in always being admired but never felt. You can be surrounded by people who look up to you and still feel utterly unseen. That's because they've fallen in love with the image, not the truth. And you deserve more than that. You deserve the kind of connection that isn't about how useful you are, but how human you are. Sometimes you become so accustomed to earning affection that you don't even recognize when it's given freely. You question it. You push it away. You downplay it. But love isn't supposed to be suspicious. It's supposed to feel safe. And if it doesn't, maybe it's because somewhere along the line you were taught that safety came from achievement, not acceptance. But think about the people you love, really love. You don't love them because they always say the right things. You don't love them because they impress you constantly. You love them for their honesty, their quirks, their imperfections, their presence. So, why would your worth be measured differently? You don't need to be extraordinary to be loved. You just need to be real. And real is allowed to be tired. Real is allowed to be unsure. Real is allowed to rest. So, tonight, let go of the need to prove yourself. Let go of the mental checklist that says, I was good today, so I'm allowed to be loved. You were loved before you even opened your eyes this morning. You were worthy when you made mistakes. You were lovable when you didn't get everything right. Let your breath even out. Let your thoughts drift. The world can wait. Your to-do list will still be there tomorrow. But for now, you're not a task. You're not a responsibility. You're not someone's project. You're simply here. And that's enough. Close your eyes if you haven't already. Feel the way your body softens. When it's not being watched, that's who you really are. Not the polished version, not the overachiever, but this version, the quiet, soft, breathing you. The one who longs for stillness, the one who doesn't need to perform. You don't have to be admired to be loved. You don't have to impress to be safe. The people who truly see you won't clap. They'll stay. They'll sit beside you in silence. They'll listen without fixing. They'll offer you space to unravel without judgment. That's the kind of love you deserve. The kind that doesn't demand a show. The kind that asks nothing more than for you to just be. And if you haven't found those people yet, that's okay. You can start by being that person for yourself. Tonight. Now. You can wrap yourself in warmth. You can offer yourself the kindness you've given so freely to others. You can remind yourself, I don't have to earn love. I just have to receive it. There are moments when you wonder what would have been different if someone had truly seen you. Not just noticed your grades or your good behaviour or your ability to adapt, but really seen you. The version of you who was soft and scared and unsure. The child who didn't need praise, but presence. Who didn't want a lesson, but a lap. Who needed to be told, you're okay, just as you are. And actually believed it. You might not have gotten that. And that absence might still echo in you now. You didn't need someone to mould you into the best version of yourself. You needed someone to hold you in your messiest ones. When you cried over things others called small. When you couldn't articulate what you felt but needed someone to sit with you anyway, when your joy bubbled over, uncontained, and no one told you to quiet down. You needed someone who didn't flinch at your feelings, who didn't measure your worth by how easy you were to raise. You needed love that was steady, not dependent on how much you pleased or how little you needed. It's easy to look back and feel the ache of that lack, to name what should have been there. But this isn't about blame. It's about witnessing the truth of your experience and honouring the parts of you that went unseen. Because those parts didn't disappear. They just learned to hide. And even now, they're still waiting for safety, waiting for gentleness, waiting to be acknowledged without judgment. You don't have to ignore that ache anymore. You can name it without shame. You can say, I didn't get the love I needed, and that wasn't my fault. It's not weakness to grieve the affection you missed. It's not childish to wish someone had wrapped you in understanding. Your need for love was never too much. It was just unmet. And here's the quiet truth that might surprise you. It's never too late to receive the kind of care you needed then. It may not look the same. It might not come from the same people, but you can still create space for that kind of gentleness now. You can offer yourself a tone of voice that soothes, not shames. You can surround yourself with people who don't need you to perform. You can even imagine, for a moment, a version of your younger self being held in warmth, and you can be the one who holds them. Close your eyes if they're not closed already. Picture yourself at whatever age you needed the most comfort. Maybe you're 5, maybe you're 12, maybe you're somewhere in between. See the way they sit, nervous maybe, holding too much, bracing for correction. And now imagine your present self entering the room. No judgment, no hurry, just presence, just kindness. Sit beside them. Let them rest against your shoulder. Say the thing they never got to hear. You don't have to be anyone else. I love you just like this. You don't have to be a therapist to reparent yourself. You don't have to have perfect words or some script memorized. You just need presence, consistency, a willingness to listen to yourself instead of criticize, a promise that you'll show up even when it's messy, especially then, because love isn't something you missed your one shot at. Love isn't a door that closes if you didn't receive it young enough. Love can be built slowly, carefully, on the foundation of honesty and care. It starts with noticing what you needed then, and allowing yourself to want it now. You didn't need perfection from others. You needed protection. You needed someone to say, you're not wrong for feeling that. You needed someone to witness your pain without offering a lesson or a silver lining. And while it hurts that you didn't get that then, it's powerful to name it now, because in naming it, you begin to heal. This kind of healing isn't loud. It isn't dramatic. It's in the quiet decision to be softer with yourself today than you were yesterday. It's in the choice to rest when you're tired, not punish yourself for it. It's in the moment you say, I deserved better, and let that truth sit without needing to rush past it. You are not greedy for wanting to be cared for. You're not fragile for needing reassurance. You're human, and humans thrive in love, not in its absence. So let this be the beginning of something new, not the erasure of your past, but the honouring of your present. A time to finally give yourself the love that once felt so far away. You are allowed to be your own safe place now. You are allowed to offer yourself the patience you were once denied. You are allowed to believe, even tentatively, that your worth doesn't expire because someone failed to see it. You don't have to relive the past to heal from it. You just have to listen to the parts of you still is yes. There are roles you slip into without realizing. Polite guest, helpful friend, quiet supporter, cheerful one, problem solver, the one who never complains. They come naturally now. So practiced they almost feel like personality. But underneath, they're not quite you. They're masks, adaptations, tiny performances you learn to keep peace, to stay loved, to be safe. And even if you've outgrown the reasons, the masks still slip on before you know it. Still tighten when someone gets too close. You might catch yourself agreeing when you want to say no, laughing when something doesn't feel funny, offering to help even when your body is, begging for rest, not because you're fake, because you're trained, because long ago love felt contingent on how little trouble you caused, because expressing your truth sometimes led to distance, silence, disappointment. So you learned to anticipate what people wanted from you and deliver it before they could ask. You became excellent at being who others needed, even when it cost you being who you are. And maybe now you find yourself exhausted, not from any one moment, but from the constant shape-shifting, the inner scanning, the subtle bending and quiet. Censoring is tiring. Being everything to everyone is lonely too, because no one can fully love you when you're always edited. No one can hold the real you if you never let them see it. It's not your fault. The masks kept you safe. They helped you survive relationships that asked for too much and gave too little. They helped you feel chosen, even if it meant dimming your truth. They were your armor, your strategy, but they were never meant to be permanent. There's more of you beneath them. Softer, stranger, honest, real. You might worry that showing the real you would drive people away, that if you stopped performing, stopped managing everyone's perception, they'd leave. And maybe some would, but those people aren't your people. Your people won't need you to shrink. They won't require a version of you that's always polished and pleasant. They'll sit with your silence. They'll stay when you're unsure. They'll love you without needing you to entertain them. You don't have to rip the mask off all at once. That would be too raw, too sudden, but you can start small. Notice when you say yes but mean no. Notice when you smile to smooth over your discomfort. Notice when you censor a truth because it feels too much. That noticing is the first crack of light through the armor. Then try one tiny shift, one honest answer, one gentle boundary, one moment where you let yourself be seen without managing the impression. It will feel vulnerable. It might feel clumsy, but it will also feel like freedom. And the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. The people who truly love you won't ask you to be a role. They'll want to meet you, not your performance. They'll find beauty in your pauses, not just your polish. They'll want to know what's really under the surface, even when it's messy, especially when it's messy, and when the urge returns to smooth it over, to play the part, to wear the mask. Pause. Breathe. Remind yourself, I am allowed to be whole here. I'm allowed to be real. I don't need to earn love by being easy. Let your body relax as you sit with that truth. Let the tension around your smile soften. Let your hands rest. There's nothing to perform right now. No audience to impress. Just you breathing. Just you safe. This is what real presence feels like. Not perfect, not poised, just grounded, just honest, just here. The masks can wait. You don't need them to be loved. You never did. You carry more than most people see. You wake up every day and move through the world loud while holding weight that others never even notice. The pressure to keep everything running. The worry that you're not doing enough. The old memories that still sting without warning. You do it quietly, gracefully even. But inside, there's often a hum of tension that never quite shuts off. A low-grade ache that comes from feeling like love is something you have to keep earning again and again. Some days the pressure is subtle. It's the way you overthink before asking for help. The way you replay moments where you think you might have been too much. It's the way you apologize for crying, or for needing time, or for having a bad day. It's the quiet guilt that creeps in when you rest instead of producing. You're not trying to be dramatic. It's just that somewhere along the way, you internalize the idea that being lovable means being low maintenance, that needing too much makes you a burden. But love, real love, is not a transaction. It's not a system of input and output where affection is earned by your utility. It's a presence, a steady, quiet knowing that doesn't require explanation, that doesn't weigh your worth against your productivity, that doesn't keep score of your struggles. You are not a burden just because you have needs. You may have been told, directly or indirectly, that your emotions were a lot, that your sadness was inconvenient, that your needs took up space others didn't want to share. And when that happens enough times, you start managing yourself for other people's comfort. You begin asking for less, offering more, until you're emotionally threadbare. You convince yourself you're too sensitive, when really, you were just never met with enough sensitivity in return. But your sensitivity is not a flaw. It's a signal, a beautiful, vital signal that you're alive, that you care deeply, that you feel the world in more colours than most. It might mean you cry easily, or that you're deeply moved by beauty, or that you pick up on tension in a room before anyone says a word. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Sensitivity doesn't make you less lovable. If anything, it's what makes your love more profound, because you notice what others miss. You extend compassion where others look away. You carry the emotional map of the people around you. That's not a liability, that's a gift, and it deserves to be met with gentleness, not restraint. Tonight, give yourself permission to feel it all without judgment. Whatever lingers in your body, tension, fatigue, sadness, or even relief, let it be. You don't need to sort through it before resting. You don't need to justify it. You're allowed to simply feel and still be worthy of rest. Take a slow breath in. Let it out through your mouth. Imagine each exhale as a quiet yes. Yes to being here. Yes to feeling. Yes to not needing to earn love through suppression. You are not an inconvenience. You are not a project to be managed. You are not a list of traits to be tolerated. You are a living, breathing person with rhythms and needs and beauty that can't be measured by how easy you are to love. Let that settle. Let the truth of it float in the quiet around you. You don't have to keep shrinking to be accepted. You don't have to keep giving to feel wanted. The right love won't ask you to shapeshift. It will meet you where you are, and it will stay. Let your breath deepen again. Feel the support beneath you. You are not too much. You never were. You're just enough, exactly as you are, in this moment. You've spent so much time worrying about being too much for people that you've forgotten how much of yourself you've held back. Not just your feelings, but your dreams, your desires, your weird, beautiful quirks, your quiet beliefs and loud laughter. Somewhere along the line, you got the message that full expression wasn't safe, that being all of you might drive others away. And so you began editing, trimming the parts of yourself that felt inconvenient or misunderstood, not to deceive, but to protect, to survive. But now you feel the cost, the slow ache of self-abandonment, the way your voice catches when you want to say what you really feel, the tiredness that creeps in when you're always adjusting to keep the peace. And maybe you've even started to believe that being loved means being less of yourself. But love that asks for less of you isn't really love, it's control. You are not meant to be digested easily by everyone. You're not a bland, polite version of yourself designed for universal approval. You are meant to be a full spectrum, complicated, vibrant, wild in some ways, soft in others. You are meant to confuse some people, to challenge others, to inspire those who see you. That's what being real means. It means not everyone will understand, but the ones who do will love you more deeply, because they are loving all of you. You don't have to be likeable to be lovable. You don't have to be agreeable to be accepted. Love isn't about smoothing over your edges. It's about holding them. The people who truly care won't flinch at your intensity. They won't silence your loud joy or tiptoe around your big feelings. They'll want the whole story, not just the headline. This doesn't mean you need to bear everything all at once, but you can start letting truth slip through in tiny ways. A sentence you wouldn't normally say, a boundary you usually let slide, a moment where you let someone see behind the practiced smile. Every honest act is a reclaiming. Every unfiltered moment is a step toward being fully loved, not just accepted. It might feel risky. Vulnerability always does. But the more you show up as yourself, the more you attract people who meet you there. Not the ones who love your performance, but the ones who lean in when the mask comes off. The ones who say, you don't have to be perfect. I'm not going anywhere. Think of someone in your life who makes you feel like you can breathe. Someone who doesn't require explanations, who listens more than they speak. That's what real connection feels like. It's spacious, it's soft. It doesn't hinge on how easy you are to deal with. It honours the truth of who you are. That kind of love doesn't have to be rare. You can start by offering it to yourself. Offer yourself patience when your emotions rise without warning. Offer yourself gentleness when you can't explain why something hurts. Offer yourself space to be unfiltered, unproductive, unsure. That's the practice of unconditional care. That's the beginning of trust, within yourself and with others. And in those quiet moments when doubt creeps in, when the old voices whisper that you're only lovable if you keep everyone happy, pause, listen, then gently say back, I'm allowed to be whole here. I don't need to fragment myself to stay connected. The love that asks for less of me is not the love I choose anymore. Let your breath come easy now. Let your body settle. You don't have to keep holding everything in. You don't have to be a curated version of yourself. You're allowed to unfold, even if it's slow, even if it's just a little at a time. You are not too much. You are not a puzzle to be solved. You are not waiting to become more lovable. You already are. Just like this, just as you are. No edits, no shrinking, only truth. You've spent so much of your life trying to be helpful, trying to be kind, trying to anticipate what others need so they won't be disappointed. And somewhere inside all that trying, love became a job, a quiet hustle, a thing to manage and maintain. You may not have called it that, but it became routine, checking in stopped trying, people would stop loving. That if you weren't actively proving your worth, someone would change their mind. That your value was tied to your usefulness, not to who you were, but to what you could give. And that belief runs deep, doesn't it? Deep enough that even rest feels risky. Even joy, when it's unearned, feels suspicious. You've internalized the idea that love is a prize, and you are in constant competition to keep it. But what if it's not? What if love isn't a reward for good behaviour, but a recognition of your humanity? What if it's not something you earn, but something you already carry? Something that finds you, not because of your performance, but because of your presence. That kind of love doesn't ask for constant effort. It doesn't tally your worth with every action. It just sits beside you. It listens. It stays. Unlearning the hustle for love isn't easy. It's not just a decision. It's a process. It starts with noticing the ways you still strive for approval, the way you over-apologise when you've done nothing wrong, the way you minimise your pain so you don't seem dramatic, the way you say I'm fine when what you mean is I need someone. These are the habits of someone who has been trained to protect love at all costs, even at the cost of your own peace. But what you protect isn't always what protects you. The effort to maintain everyone else's comfort might be what's keeping you from your own. You weren't made to be everyone's caretaker. You weren't made to be easy to love. You were made to be real, and real people don't hustle for love. They receive it. They reciprocate it. They rest in it. You don't have to prove your loyalty by staying silent. You don't have to earn kindness by overextending. You don't have to keep showing up at full strength just to be tolerated. You can be tired and still be treasured. You can be confused and still be cared for. You can be unfinished and still be enough. Imagine for a moment the version of you that doesn't hustle. The one who shows up to friendships and relationships without performance. The one who believes deeply that love will not leave the moment you pause. That version of you doesn't have to scan every interaction for danger, doesn't have to rehearse texts or overthink tone. That version simply exists and is loved. Anyway, that's the goal. Not perfection, not effortlessness, just ease, just honesty, just the quiet knowing that you no longer have to chase affection like it's a moving target, that you are not a contestant in someone else's emotional game. You're allowed to walk away from love that demands constant upkeep. You're allowed to say, I'm done performing. If you stay, stay for the real me. And yes, that's terrifying. It will make some people uncomfortable. It will shift certain dynamics. But it will also make room for the love that doesn't ask you to hustle. The love that's not impressed by how much you give, but by how fully you show up. The love that chooses you when you're ordinary, messy, human. You are not less lovable when you're quiet. You are not less worthy when you're not useful. The ones who truly care will meet you in your stillness. They will love you not for what you do, but for who you are. And that, finally, will feel like rest. Let this be the night you loosen your grip on trying. Let this be the moment where you allow yourself to simply be. You don't have to keep the plate spinning. You don't have to impress. You don't have to prove. You are enough already. You have always been. Love, the kind that nourishes, doesn't always look like grand declarations or dramatic gestures. Sometimes it's barely visible to the outside world. It lives in quiet consistency, in the tone of someone's voice when they say your name, in the way they remember the small things. You've been taught to look for love in the obvious ways. Attention, gifts, that's shared without needing to fill it. A gentle check-in without fanfare. The text that says, no need to respond, just thinking of you. Maybe you've overlooked this kind of love before. Maybe it felt too quiet to trust, too subtle to count. After all, you were trained to look for love that proves itself loudly, that announces itself, that comes attached to certainty and promise. But the truth is, some of the deepest love barely makes a sound. It just shows up. It's there when things fall apart. It doesn't flinch at your silence. It doesn't disappear when you cancel plans or forget to reply. It waits. It understands. It stays. You've been praised for your strength, your independence, your resilience. But what about the parts of you that long for softness? The part that doesn't want to be strong all the time? What about the part of you that just wants someone to notice, without you having to say a word? You don't have to hide that need anymore. You don't have to silence your longing. Wanting to be loved gently is not a weakness. It's a beautiful human truth. You might still be learning how to recognize healthy love. You might still feel suspicious of kindness that doesn't come with a catch. That's okay. You're allowed to relearn what love looks like. You're allowed to question. But when someone offers you patience instead of pressure, presence instead of persuasion, that's love. When someone remembers what makes you feel safe and doesn't make you ask for it twice, that's love. When you can exhale around someone, not perform, that's love. This kind of love doesn't rush. It doesn't need to dazzle. It doesn't play games. It comes with warmth, not intensity. And sometimes the hardest part is letting yourself receive it. Not because you don't want to, but because you've been hurt before. You've been conditioned to brace for disappointment. But that's the beauty of real love. It teaches you that safety can exist in connection, that you don't have to armor up just to be seen. Tonight, reflect on those small moments of care that once caught you off guard. A hand on your back, a kind look across a noisy room, someone who asked, "Are you okay?" and actually meant it. Those are the threads of real love. They weave quietly, but they hold strong. They are proof that love doesn't need to be loud. To be powerful, you might be tempted to push that love away when it comes. You might minimize it, dismiss it, pretend you don't need it. But the truth is, you do, and that's not shameful. That's not needy. That's being real. You deserve love that listens before it responds, that asks how you're really doing, and then sits with the answer, even if it's hard. So let your guard down, even just a little. Let yourself soften. Let the quiet warmth of those memories, those moments, wash over you. You don't have to chase dramatic affection anymore. You don't have to prove yourself worthy of someone staying. The love that's meant for you will speak in ways you understand, not just with words, but with presence, with care, with time. Close your eyes now, if they're not already closed. Let your breath come steady. Let yourself remember what it feels like to be loved without effort. That love may still be unfolding. You may still be finding your way toward it, but it's there, and you're allowed to receive it without earning it. You might not even realize how often you brace for loss, how many conversations you enter expecting them to change, how many good moments you meet with suspicion, as if love is a fragile thing that might vanish the second you get used to it. Maybe you've been told you're too sensitive, that you overreact, that you imagine problems where there are none. But really, you're just someone who learned early on that safety is temporary, and that love often comes with an expiration. date. And so, even when things feel good, a small part of you stays watchful. This hyper-awareness isn't something you chose. It's a response to inconsistency. When love in the past has been conditional, when it depended on how well you behaved, how little you needed, or how quickly you bounced back from hurt, you start to believe that love is something you have to monitor constantly, that one misstep could make it disappear, that you are always on the verge of being too much or not enough. And that pressure is exhausting. You might replay conversations over and over, trying to decode tone or meaning. You might hesitate to express your feelings because you don't want to upset the balance. You might keep quiet even when you're hurting, because you fear that honesty will drive people away. And in doing so, you slowly erase parts of yourself, not out of deception, but out of a deep longing to keep love close. But love that's real doesn't require you to shrink. It doesn't demand constant performance. It doesn't punish you for having emotions. Healthy love says, you don't have to be perfect, just be here. It offers reassurance before you even know how to ask for it. It reminds you, again and again, that love isn't something you earn by being easy to love. It's something that holds you even when you're not. You deserve to exhale in your relationships. You deserve to speak without rehearsing, to rest without guilt, to believe, not fear, that someone will stay. And yes, it takes time to build that kind of trust. It takes patience. It takes small moments where you let someone in and they don't. Run, where you express a fear and they don't make you feel foolish, where you show them the places that still ache and they respond with care, not correction. You might still be learning what that looks like, and that's okay. You don't have to master it all at once, but you can start by noticing when you begin to brace, when your shoulders tense, when your heart speeds up in anticipation of loss. In those moments, pause, breathe, remind yourself, not all love leaves, not all softness turns sharp. This moment, right now, is safe. Let that truth settle. Let your body begin to believe it. You don't have to guard every corner of your heart. You don't have to rehearse safety. You are allowed to trust what feels warm, what feels kind, what feels steady. And if trust feels too big, start with curiosity. Let yourself wonder, what if this time I'm not too much? What if I can speak and still be heard? What if I can be afraid and still be loved? You don't need all the answers. You just need space for those questions to breathe. Tonight, let this be your soft reminder. You are not living on borrowed affection. You are not one mistake away from abandonment. The love that stays won't flinch when you're honest. It won't vanish when you need more. It will meet you, messy, real, unsure, and it will say, I'm still here. There's a quiet kind of grief that lives inside people who've spent years waiting to be chosen. It's not the loud kind that spills over in tears or breaks. Things open. It's slower, more patient. It lingers in moments where you feel invisible in a room full of people. It hums in the silence after you've sent a message that goes unanswered. It flickers in the pause before someone finally sees you and then chooses someone else. That grief doesn't scream. It just sinks deeper, layering itself under the question, why not me? You've likely learned to hide that grief. Maybe you laugh instead. Maybe you say you're happy for them. Maybe you tell yourself you didn't care that much to begin with. But underneath the ease you try to wear like armour, there's an ache that's harder to name. The longing to be someone's first choice, not their afterthought. To be loved not out of obligation, but with intention. There's nothing wrong with that longing. It's one of the most human things about you. Wanting to be seen, chosen, cherished. It's not needy. It's real. And it doesn't mean you're weak. It means you know your own depth. It means you've imagined what it would feel like to be fully met. And even if that hasn't happened yet in the way you've dreamed, it doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means the story isn't done. Somewhere along the way, you may have started thinking that not being chosen meant you weren't enough. That if you had just been more interesting, more easygoing, more beautiful, more stable, things would have turned out differently. But that's not how real love works. Real love doesn't come because you check the right boxes. It arrives when there's alignment, when there's resonance, when two people are able to meet each other honestly. You don't have to contort yourself into someone else's version of lovable. And when you try to earn love by being everything someone else might want, you end up losing yourself. You begin abandoning the very parts of you that are most vibrant. You become a projection of their desires, not an expression of your own truth. That's not connection, that's performance. And while it may win you closeness, it won't give you peace. You are not unlovable just because you haven't been loved in the way you needed. You are not hard to care for just because some people chose not to. Sometimes people choose based on their own patterns, their own wounds, their own fears, and that choice has nothing to do with your worth. It's not a judgment of your value, it's just where they are in their story, and it doesn't define where you are in yours. Your job isn't to convince anyone of your worth. Your job is to keep being honest about who you are, to keep showing up for your own heart, even when others can't, to stay soft, even when the world has taught you to be guarded, and to remind yourself again and again that being chosen starts with choosing yourself. Choosing yourself means listening to your needs before you silence them. It means honouring your energy, your time, your dreams. It means not chasing love that leaves you depleted. It means saying no when staying would cost you too much. And yes, it means sitting with loneliness sometimes, but not the kind of loneliness that comes from self-abandonment. The kind that comes from being true to yourself, even when others don't understand. That's a sacred kind of solitude. That's the space where real self-love begins. So tonight, let yourself mourn what didn't happen. Let yourself grieve the times you weren't chosen. You don't have to minimize it. You don't have to pretend it didn't matter. But then, gently, begin to come home to yourself. Begin to ask, what would it look like to love me here, in this moment, exactly as I am? You are worthy of being someone's first choice, and more importantly, you are worthy of being your own. There's a difference between being loved and feeling loved, and you know that difference, even if you haven't always had the words for it. Being loved can be quiet, almost invisible, a vague knowing that someone cares in theory, but feeling loved, that lives in your body. It's the sense that someone sees you, wants you, chooses you, not out of duty, not out of habit, but out of genuine care. It's the difference between being told, "Of course I love you," and being held when you didn't even ask. It's the difference between an obligation and an offering. You've gone through seasons where people said they loved you, and maybe they even meant it, but somehow it never reached your nervous system. It never settled in. Maybe they were distracted. Maybe they were inconsistent. Maybe they withheld affection unless you performed a certain way. Whatever the reason, you learn to second guess the words, to wait for them to be taken back, to prepare for the shift, the distance, the withdrawal, the silence. Love became something to manage, not something to trust, but your body keeps the care. You don't mean to be suspicious. You're just bracing for what used to follow. The drop, the turning, the moment when love became a weight instead of a refuge. What you need is love you can feel. Love that isn't theoretical. Love that shows up, that stays, that looks you in the eye and doesn't flinch when you're honest. Love that doesn't retreat when you say you're scared or tired or unsure. Love that doesn't shrink in the face of your needs, but expands to meet them. Feeling loved isn't about constant reassurance. It's about consistency. It's about someone remembering the details, showing up when they said they would, listening when you speak, not just hearing the words, but hearing the meaning behind them. It's about safety, not grand gestures, presence, not performance, and most importantly, feeling loved isn't something you should have to fight for. It's not something you should have to earn through perfection or self-sacrifice. You don't have to be endlessly accommodating to deserve care. You don't have to be fun, productive, calm, or low maintenance to be held. You just have to be, and that's enough. You've probably had moments when you started to relax, when love started to feel real, and then something happened. A sudden coldness, a confusing silence, a withdrawal without warning, and so you started to associate closeness with danger. You learned that letting your guard down meant being caught off balance, and now, even when love is safe, your body still scans for threat. There's nothing wrong with you. That hypervigilance is a survival skill. It helped you navigate unstable waters, but you don't have to stay in that mode forever. Little by little, you can start to notice when love is safe. You can start to name the moments when it lands, when someone says something kind and you actually feel it, when someone remembers your favourite song, when someone texts just to say, thinking of you. Let those moments sink in. Let them touch the part of you that's been waiting to feel. You deserve to feel love in your bones, to rest in it, not brace against it. You deserve love that doesn't just speak in words but moves with care. That makes you feel held, even when no one's in the room. That doesn't ask you to constantly prove your worth, but reminds you of it, over and over, until your body begins to believe it again. Tonight, let this be your soft invitation to stop managing love and to start receiving it. Not in theory, not in hypotheticals, but in feeling, in truth, in warmth that wraps around you and says, you don't have to earn this, just rest. You've spent so long trying to be good, a good friend, a good partner, a good child, a good person. Somewhere along the way, goodness became a shape you squeezed yourself into, tightly, obediently, sometimes painfully. You measured your worth by how little space you took up, how easy you made things for others, how well you masked your own discomfort. You became skilled at anticipating needs, soothing tempers, apologising first, even when you had nothing to apologise for. And all of it was in service of love, of keeping it, of not being left behind. But being good shouldn't cost you your peace. It shouldn't demand silence in the face of mistreatment. It shouldn't require you to disappear. The version of love you learned may have been transactional, tied to behaviour, tied to performance. But real love doesn't work that way. Real love doesn't require you to be good in a way that erases your truth. It asks only that you be whole, that you be honest, that you show up even when you're messy. Sometimes you confuse keeping the peace with keeping love. You bite your tongue, you absorb the blame, you agree to things that don't feel right. relationship, that expressing your boundary will mean you're too difficult, too rigid, too much. But the relationships that break at the first sign of honesty aren't ones that were built to last. And your no is not a weapon, it's a signal, a signpost that says, I know myself, I honour my limits, I am not here to be consumed. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. You don't have to say yes to be loved. You don't have to agree to things that make your stomach knot. The people who truly care for you want your authenticity, not your compliance. They want your truth, not your performance. And when you stop trying to be universally good, when you stop over-functioning to hold everything together, you begin to meet yourself, the parts of you that have been waiting, the tired parts, the angry parts, the sad parts, the parts that never got to speak. These parts don't need fixing. They need listening. They need love. From you first. From others eventually. Reclaiming. Your voice can be uncomfortable at first. You might worry that you're being selfish, that you're becoming cold, but advocating for your own needs doesn't make you cruel. It makes you clear. It makes you someone who can be trusted to say the truth, even when it's hard. And in doing so, you create space for deeper connection, for real intimacy, for love that isn't built on sacrifice, but on mutual respect. Imagine being in relationships where you don't have to calculate every response, where you can say, that hurt, or I need time, or I don't agree, and still feel safe. That's possible. That's what happens when love stops being something to maintain and becomes something to live in. You've given so much, and you'll keep giving, because that's who you are. But you can give from a full heart, not a depleted one. You can love without abandoning yourself. You can care without disappearing. And the people who deserve your energy will never demand that you do. Tonight, give yourself permission to stop trying to be good. Let go of the pressure to be perfect, or pleasing, or always okay. Let yourself just be. Angry, joyful, unsure, hopeful, whatever you are, that's enough. That's worthy. That's lovable. You don't have to earn your place by being small. You don't have to buy love with your silence. You are not difficult for having needs. You are not wrong for asking for more. You are not broken because you want to feel safe. You are allowed to take up space, to speak your truth, to be fully, unapologetically you. And you are still good. You are still lovable. You are still home. You have always carried the weight of needing to be enough. Enough to be loved. Enough to be chosen. Enough to be safe. And maybe you were never told directly that you weren't. But the world around you whispered it anyway. In the sideways glances. In the praise that only came when you achieved. In the silence that followed your most vulnerable moments. Slowly, you started to believe that love was something fragile, something that required maintenance, something you had to earn again and again just to keep. But love that must be constantly earned is not love. It's labour, and you're tired. You've spent years performing, proving, making yourself palatable. And still, some part of you wonders, was it enough? Was I enough? And here is the truth that's been waiting for you all along. You are not meant to be earned. You are not a project. You are not an application waiting for approval. You are not a performance on trial for applause. You are a person, a whole, complex, living person. And you were born worthy of love. You may not believe that yet. That's okay. It takes time to untangle yourself from the lies. It takes time to trust that love won't mistake. But slowly, with gentleness, you can start rewriting the narrative. You can start listening to the quieter truths, the ones that live beneath the noise of past rejection. You can remember moments of connection that felt easy, unearned, unconditional. You can start giving that kind of love to yourself too. Tonight, you don't have to convince anyone to care. You don't have to show up stronger than you feel. You don't have to justify your needs or apologize for your softness. You are allowed to be messy. You are allowed to be healing. You are allowed to take off the armor. The love that sees you won't ask you to wear it anyway. And if you feel alone in this moment, that's okay too. Loneliness is not proof that you're unlovable. It's proof that you're human. You are wired for connection. You are meant to be met, not just managed. You are allowed to crave more than surface level affection. You are allowed to want to be seen in your entirety. You don't need to fix yourself before you can be loved. You don't need to earn rest. You don't need to shrink your dreams, your voice, or your feelings just to keep others comfortable. You don't need to hustle for your place in anyone's life. The right people will never ask you to audition. The right love will not make you question your worth. You are not here to beg for crumbs. You are here to be nourished, to be chosen fully, to be met with gentleness. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are not hard to love. The people who made you feel that way were simply not equipped to hold what you carry. That's not your fault. That's not your burden. And now, as the night settles around you, let this truth settle too. You don't have to earn love. You never did. Love isn't a payment for performance. It's a recognition of your being. It's the still, steady presence that says, I see you just as you are. I'm not going anywhere. Let yourself soften now. Let your breath come slow and steady. The trying can end here. The proving can rest. You are already enough. Let the weight of your day fall away, slowly, like leaves drifting from tired branches. Let everything that asks too much of you slide to the ground. You've carried so much, in your words, your thoughts, your silence. You've carried expectations that never belonged to you. You've carried stories that said you had to do more, be more, give more, just to be worthy of something as simple, as essential, as love. But now, in this stillness, you can set all of that down. You don't need to carry it into sleep. You don't need to solve or finish or fix anything. There is nothing to prove here, nothing to manage. You are not being watched. You are not being tested. You are safe, and that safety is yours to feel. Breathe it in. Let it wrap around you, slow and soft. The sound of rain is waiting, steady, gentle, not rushing you, not pushing you, just here. Let it guide you into rest. Let it remind you of rhythm, of cycles, of how even the sky lets go when it needs to. Let it be a lullaby for your nervous system, a backdrop for your dreams. You don't have to be anyone right now but you. Not the strong one, not the helper, not the fixer, just you. And that is enough, more than enough. Close your eyes, feel the quiet settle in, and as the rain begins to fall, remember this: you are loved, without effort, without performance, without condition. You always have been, and you always will be. Sleep well, gentle